I tried so hard to cover up how I was feeling physically and mentally that I was exhausted. Like that's all I can really, that's the best way that I can describe it. I was mentally and physically exhausted. I wouldn't always get really bad cramps for the full 3 weeks, but at least 7 days to 14 days of that time, I would have like really, really excruciating pain. And because it was like, as I said, it was a rite of passage, like, you know, you have cramps and that's what teenage girls complain about. I just thought like this was the cramps that everybody else was having. Mine would, it would get to the point a lot of the time where like I would not be able to walk, and I would sleep a lot at school. I tried not to, I never used to complain a lot about cramps because it was like, oh, you don't talk about those things. You know, all girls get periods. And then the pain started to spread from stomach cramps and back cramps to like numbing down my legs. So I would get like, my thighs would go numb and I'd get like shooting pain up the middle of my back. So I would get like rectal pain, and it literally felt like somebody had stabbed you where they shouldn't stab you. And yeah. Endometriosis cramps are like, we tend to liken it a lot to like having barbed wire like literally wrapped around your abdomen. But I always, when I was growing up, I always used to say it felt like there were two cats in my stomach at war with each other and literally like carving out my insides. And I think because I was always a very dramatic person, it was assumed that that was just like hyperbole, like, oh, just Lara and her dramatics. But that was actually the one thing that I never over exaggerated. That pain, like sometimes it would, I've never cried from pain except for period, well, endo pain. The back cramps used to like, so I used to get back cramps, which would literally just like I wouldn't be able to move physically, like I couldn't get up or anything. And then the sharp pain, that would, as I said, that would literally start at like my rectum and just go straight up the middle of my back. And there would be times where I'd like be walking, and when I would get that pain, like my legs would get stuck in whatever position they were in. So that was actually how I first came to hear about endometriosis, because I went to an orthopedic surgeon about that pain, the back pain, and he did all the tests, make sure it wasn't skeletal, wasn't nerve damage, was muscular, and he was like, I think that this is like this isn't ortho related at all. I think this is actually I'm gonna call your gynecologist and see if he can check you out for endometriosis, because that's actually what that pain sounds like. I think for years my mom thought I was just trying to get out of school. So a lot of disbelief, or like, I guess the underlying idea that it really couldn't be that bad. You must be being dramatic. So, yeah. I tried so hard to cover up how I was feeling physically and mentally that I was exhausted. Like that's all I can really, that's the best way that I can describe it. I was mentally and physically exhausted. And it can get very demoralizing every time you go to a new doctor. And because I cycled through doctors between about 19 and 24, and you try to explain to them what's happening, but they're looking at you on the one day that you happen to not be in excruciating pain. You finally got an appointment and you're sitting there trying to explain it to them, and they're looking at you and you look perfectly fine and healthy and fit and young, and they're just not seeing what you're trying to tell them. And that, after a while, that takes a serious toll on you, and you also start to doubt, like, am I just weak? Like, is it that everybody else does experience this and I'm like, there's something wrong with me and I just like didn't learn how to tolerate cramps like every other woman? And actually my biggest fear before my surgery was that they would not find anything, and that for 12, 13 years I'd just been like weak. So, and I kept saying to Dr. Henry, like, you know, what if, you know, what happens if you go in and there's nothing there? Because that I was more scared of that happening than anything else that could have gone wrong in surgery or just anything. Like, people get tense before surgeries. I wasn't tense about the surgery. I was tense. I was anxious that they would just not find anything, and what everybody had made me believe before would be true. So that didn't happen, but that was what scared me. It was just like a constant hindrance, but then there are like times where it really stands out. So it definitely, when I started to work, that would, you know, your life structure, your daily routines, a lot of people rely on you, responsibilities at work. I worked with kids when I first started. I worked with special needs kids. So when I was responsible for who I was responsible for in the day, you know, you are like, you can't just like take a breather, you can't just sit down. So I was on my feet a lot. The first time that I got taken to hospital was from work, because I couldn't, by 9 o'clock in the morning, I just couldn't even stand anymore. So I've always tried my best to not let it stop me from doing things. I've always tried my best to not let it get in the way of seeing people or fulfilling my obligations at work or at school. But realistically, that's like impossible. So I didn't have a firm diagnosis at the time, when I was 19. And I was given Ponstan, so mefenamic acid. Apart from different birth controls, trying to limit the bleeding as much as possible, trying to limit my period. That was about it. It wasn't until I was 25 that I had a surgical laparoscopy to confirm the diagnosis and remove the endometriosis lesions. when Dr. Henry was like, I think we should go in and look and kind of fix this as best we can. Those weren't his exact words, but that's what I heard. Because that, for me, that was we're gonna be proactive. We're not gonna do what we've been doing for the past 13 years and hope that we're gonna get a different result. That was the first time that I had like a glimmer of hope, I guess, that there was something that we could do. I had never really considered surgery an option because I was under the impression, I guess, that it was just for people that had become bedridden from it, or, you know, basically were just like way worse off than me. I often downplayed my pain or compared it to people that I saw like on Instagram or something that always seemed to be in a worse position than me. So I was just grateful that like my situation maybe wasn't as bad as theirs. So that was definitely a big highlight because I felt very validated. I cried. I had surgery 11 months ago, and I definitely think that this is the first normal year I've ever had, well, since puberty. I didn't know what it was like to have, like, to be able to function just normally on your period. Like, you have your period and you just go about your day, and it's not comfortable, but it's, you know, it's in the background. It's background noise. Before, it was like loud friggin' thunder, like thunderstorm over my head the whole time. And now it's definitely background noise, and it's really nice to, I guess, not, well, definitely to not be in pain all the time. I would say don't let anybody tell you that, don't let anybody get inside your head and discredit what you're trying to tell them. Keep changing doctors if you have to until you find the right doctor that believes you and takes you seriously, hears you, sees you. Like, do not take no for an answer. Don't let people normalize your pain. Take care of yourself the best way that you can. I think I definitely put myself in the best position that I could by eating well, exercising regularly, taking good care of my body and my mind. But don't ever let somebody make you feel that your pain is because of you. So I know what that feels like as well, to be told, oh, maybe you should exercise more, before they've even asked to find out that I exercise every day. So you want me to do more than that? No. Don't let doctors, other people, anybody gaslight you about your pain. And be your own advocate. Do whatever research you can do from reputable sites. Don't try and stay, I always say try and stay off like forums and stuff, because that never helps your mental state. But do your reading, go in with knowledge, but be your own advocate, definitely, and fight for the best care that you deserve the best care. So don't let anybody shortchange you what you deserve. But the best decision that I made was taking that step to find a doctor that believed what I had to say and was willing to take all the steps to do what was in the best interest for me.